Today I'm going to be doing a deck tech video for the best budget deck in all of Star Wars Unlimited. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm going to be doing a deck tech video for Tarkin Vehicles, the best budget deck in all Star Wars Unlimited. The deck that was made possible by one of the best new units in the entire game. So let's get right into it. And to start things off, Tarkin itself is just, I honestly believe that Tarkin is actually a very good leader. I mean, for one resource, you can exhaust him, give an experience token to an Imperial unit. Once you have 5 resources out, you can flip him into a 2/7, that when he attacks, you give an experience token to an Imperial unit. Whether you're on the front side or the back side, this card's just gonna be good. And yeah, obviously you prefer the backside. You don't want to have to spend resources to experience your guys up. But either way, this card is just so good. It can make your stuff so big, so easily, and so quickly. It's not even funny. 2 cards going up the line. We're going to go from the bottom up in this video. But 2 cards right off the start that are going to be very good at allowing you to just get some big units or get some above rate units instantly off the get-go. Something like an ISB agent. A 1 resource 1/3 that when played, you can reveal an event from your hand, because there are plenty of those in this deck, to then deal 1 damage to a unit. This card is 1 resource. You can play this, and you can experience it up with Tarkin on the first turn of the game, and now it's a 2/4, and you dealt damage to your opponent's units. So it's just a great start for you. You can play something like a TIE Fighter, the first vehicle of many in this deck, 1 resource, 2/1, and you can experience it up with Tarkin. Now, it's a 3/2 in space. That's awesome! I mean, what? And then another card, this one doesn't really care as much as like, oh, you're going to get tons of advantages on the first turn of the game or whatever. But this deck, it does run a ton of space units, a lot more than the average deck does. And it does have some really good ground units as well. However, in a lot of games, this deck can fall to the opponent having a better ground arena than you. Because again, you're going to focus a lot on the space side of the arena. You're going to, I mean, yes, you have good ground units. You have some really big ones, but they take a while to get out. So if you get overrun very early on in the ground arena, you have a couple of ways to deal with it. The best of these, in my opinion, but you're not always going to want to play it, but one of the best of these being Swoop Down. This 2 of in the deck is a 1 resource event that says attack with a space unit. It gains Saboteur for the attack, and it can attack ground units for this attack. And if it does, it gives your unit +2 power and the defending units -2 power. That is a lot better than you would think. You can just deal with one of the best, if not the best, ground unit on your opponent's board state like that for 1 resource. It's a get out of jail free card effectively in this deck. It's so good, it's not even funny. But then, getting to some of the early ground units in this deck, some of the earlier units in this deck, we got Snowtrooper Lieutenant. This 2-cost, 2/2 unit says, when played, attack with an Imperial unit, and it gets +2 power for the attack. It is unbelievable. It's like a Surprise Strike, but better in this deck. However, it only works for Imperials, but every single unit in this deck is an Imperial, except for 1, but we'll get to that in a little while. But still, this card just is so good, and it gets you so much damage so early on in the game, plus it's stapled onto a body. It's just so good. It's so good. But there's another card that's honestly better in this deck than you would think at first. That card being Seasoned Short Trooper. You'd either run this in a deck or Admiral Piet. Honestly, I prefer this one to Piet, but this card is still honestly a very good card. It's a 2 resource, 2/3. If you have 6 or more resources in play, this gets +2 power. Basically, the reason that this is in the deck over Admiral Piet is to make sure that you have good units to control the ground arena in the mid to later portions of the game at a good cost. This can be a 2 resource 4/3 after turn 5, on or after turn 5. That is very good. And it's just, yeah, you just need good bodies at that point on the ground arena. If it's still taking you a bit to kind of set up your massive space army or get to your really big ground units, you need to have ways to deal with the ground arena, and this is one of the best ways to do it. It doesn't look great at first, but it is a lot better than you would think. Then there's Incinerator Trooper. This 2 resource 2/2 doesn't look too great at first. However, it has the very, very important line of text. This deals damage before the defending unit deals damage to this card. I don't know. It has first strike if you've ever played Magic before. But what matters is you can play this. You can very easily experience it up with something like a Tarkin ability, for example, or many of the other ways to do that in this deck. but this card can get bigger, right? Well, if you get this to like a 3/3, for example, very early on in the game, which is very, very plausible and very easy to do, well, you now have a 3/3 body, which is a lot better than you would think with this ability. It deals damage before the defender does. This can mow down the ground arena better than any other unit in this deck. This is the best way to control the ground arena in the entire deck. If you need to control the ground arena, this is the unit you want. This is the unit you need to do it, especially early on in the game. In the later portion of the game, yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder to do that with this card because you need to get it bigger very, very quickly, and you need to get it really big, really fast. But still, early on in the game, if you can get this, even in the mid portions of the game, if you can get this out, it can do a lot more work than you would think at first. And another card that does a lot more work than you would think at first, and one of the first vehicles in this deck outside of TIE Fighter, that card being Outland TIE Fighter, or TIE Vanguard, or something like that. It's a 2-resource 2/1, the same stat body as TIE Fighter, but it has the bonus ability of basically having a Tarkin activation on it, but slightly better, but slightly worse. When played, you get to give an experience token to any unit, not just an Imperial unit, but that unit does have to cost 3 or less. But there are very, very few units in this deck that cost more than 3 resources, and while yes, you do want to be giving experience tokens to those units in later portions of the game, it is still very, very valuable to be experiencing up your smaller guys very early on in the game, and this card does it. I mean, it's a TIE Fighter with a Tarkin activation stapled onto it, basically, for a lot of the game. It's just a very good card. It's a lot. I didn't think it'd be super good in this deck at first, but then I saw this list, and I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going with it. But then there's Surprise Strike, which, oh my god, I love this card. It's a here's the thing. There are a lot of cards in this deck that I'm going to say this for, but if you're in this combination of aspects or whatever, you want to have certain cards in this deck. If you're playing yellow, you run Surprise Strike. If you're playing yellow and black, you'll run a card that I'll talk about here in a bit. If you're playing green and black, you run a card that I'll talk about here in a bit, you know? But Surprise Strike is one of the best yellow cards in the entire game. 2 resource, attack with a unit. It gets +3 power for the attack. What's not to love about this card? I mean, come on! I mean, it's just so good. It deals same thing that I said for Snowtrooper Lieutenant earlier, it applies to this, and it's just so good. Then, there is No Good to Be Dead. 2 resource, it's such a good way to slow the opponents down because it exhausts one of their units, any unit, and it does not ready during the regroup phase. So it's gone for 1 turn, and then it's gone for a 2nd turn. That is unbelievably powerful. Unbelievably powerful. It's not even funny. And then there's Prepare for Takeoff. This is only a 2 of in the deck, but it basically allows you to search through more of your deck to make sure you can get the best vehicles possible, depending on the moment. This 2 cost event says look at the top 8 cards of your deck, then you get up to 2 vehicles, and you put them into your hand. There's a reason that this is in the deck. It's mainly for one specific vehicle, but just allowing, again, to turn through your deck and get vehicles depending on what you need at the time. It is very, very good, especially for a specific unit. Not the one that I'm about to say, 7 Fleet Defender, but for a different one. But 7 Fleet Defender is a 3 resource 3/2 shielded, which is still very, very good to get off of Prepare for Takeoff, but it's not as good as Lurking TIE Phantom. This 3 resource 2/2 raid 2 is unbelievably powerful because of one line of text. This unit cannot be captured, it cannot be defeated by enemy card effects, and it cannot be damaged. That is so powerful. Yes, there are ways to get rid of it. There are ways to make you sacrifice it with something like, I don't know, Power of the Dark Side. You can, your opponent can play something like Make an Opening, give a thing -2/-2. This could eye to that, but still, Lurking TIE Phantom is so hard to deal with because it either forces the opponent to run cards to deal with it, or they just die. Simple as that. I mean, yes, 7 Fleet Defender is a great card to get off of something like Prepare for Takeoff, but the reason that Prepare for Takeoff is in the deck is because of Lurking TIE Phantom. This card is the reason that this deck exists. Vehicle Tarkin exists and is a thing because of this card. The best budget deck in the game exists because of Lurking TIE Phantom. Potentially the best villainous unit in the entire game right now. This card is so good because it is warping the game because of how good it is. And a card that's really good in this deck to run or get a lot of your space units or a lot of your vehicles out quicker is Triple Dark Raid. One of the best cards in this deck. The second best card in the deck in my personal opinion. Triple Dark Raid is a 3 resource event that says, look at the top 10 cards of your deck, then you get to play a vehicle, it enters play readied, and it costs 5 less resources to play. That's insane. You can play Lurking Tide Phantom for free. You can play something like a Tide Advance for free. You can play so many units in this deck that I'm going to go talk about here in a second for like 1 resource, or 2 resources, or 3 resources. It's insane. However, that unit does go back to your hand at the end of the turn. But getting to play a unit earlier than you would expect, and then get to attack with it immediately, that is so good. Even though it has to go back to your hand, that's fine, because you still get access to it later. You can either resource it if you really need to, or if you got another in your hand or whatever, but you get to still have access to it. You can still play it if you want to. That is so good. And another card that is so good, that is especially good to play off a triple dark raid, is Tide Advance. This 4 resource 3/2 says when played, give an Imperial unit, another Imperial unit, 2 experience tokens. That is nuts, because you can play this. You can get the one plate effect. And let's say you play it off a triple dark raid. Okay, you spend 3 resources, you get this in for free. You attack for 3. Oh, by the way, one of your things has 2 more experience tokens on it. Then it goes back to your hand at the end of the turn. Then you play it the next turn. Well, now there's 2 more experience tokens on one of your things. That's insane. You get the one plate effect twice, and you still got the 3/2 body. That's insane, by the way. I just think that's nuts. And speaking of a card that I think is nuts, Overwhelming Barrage. This 3 of in the deck, this is another card. If you're playing green and black, if you're playing that combination of aspects, you play this card. It's a 5 resource event. Give one of your units +2/+2, then it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose them on enemy units. That is insane. That can just, it can be a one-sided board wipe. It can get rid of all your opponent's annoying ground units. It can get rid of some of their space units. It can get rid of their entire board state, because again, this deck wants to go super big, super fast. And once you get this out, once you can play this card on turn 4, you're very likely to just kill your opponent's entire board state, depending on what you have out. It's insane. This card, it just does so much work. It's not even funny. But then we get to the biggest units in this deck, the biggest of vehicles in this entire deck, because every other unit in this deck, the rest of this deck that I'm going to go over is vehicles, but the rest of these are also vehicles, or units, vehicles, whatever. The first one being ATST. This is a 3 of, this is a 6 resource, super good body in this deck. It's a 6/7 overwhelm. This is one of the best ground units in the game for this deck. I mean, it's a vehicle, first off. You can play it for 1 resource off of a triple dark raid. You can play it on turn 3, ATST. That's nuts. And it enters play ready. That's insane. But yeah, this card just does so much. It's just so big. You remember when I was saying you want to, like, kind of postpone out the opponent's, like, potential really good ground arena if the game's going to go longer so you can get to your big units? This is one of the ones I was talking about, because this can take over the ground arena so easily. And then there's another card in this deck that's only a 1 of, but it's mainly in the deck if you absolutely need it to make sure that you can kind of stall out the opponent's ground arena. That card being Pirate Battle Tank. This card is a 6 resource 4/6 with Sentinel. However, it importantly, because of this following line of text, it has Smuggle. I mean, it's a 1 of in the deck, but if you draw it early on in the game, you can just resource it and have access to it for the rest of the game if you need it. If you need Sentinel in the ground arena, you have Smuggle and you can get it from this card. This card, it has a lot more utility in this deck than you would think. It's sort of like a get out of jail free card. It can drag out the game just long enough to where you can get those last couple of points of damage in with your space units or with your big vehicle units to where you can just win the game. I mean, it normally doesn't do much in this deck, but when it does do something, it does a lot. So, there you go. Then, the last unit in this deck, Reinforcement Walker. 8 resource, 6/9, 1 played, and 1 in attack. So you get to look at the top card of your deck. You can either keep it on top or put it in your discard pile and you gain 3 life or something like that. This is such an insane unit to play off a triple dark raid. For 6 resources, you get this into play readied. So you get to do the thing when you play it, when you attack with it. And it's a 6/9. And it's just, speaking of things that can just take over the ground arena, this is one of the best cards in the entire game to do that. Because it can get you back when you're at lower life total. It can get you back when you have less stains in the ground arena, and this could just start attacking the ground arena and just dealing with it. And I don't know. I love this card. I love this card. I love this deck. This is such a powerful deck. I think this is very, very easily the best budget deck in all of Star Wars Unlimited, and so powerful. It is one of the best decks in the entire game right now, and it's like $45 for the entire deck. This deck doesn't need any legendaries. That's insane. This is the best budget deck in the game. This is one of the most powerful decks in the game, and if you're wanting to get into Star Wars Unlimited and you don't want to break the bank, this is the way to do it. Tarkin Vehicles. Enjoy, everybody.